Hi guys, Richard here and welcome back to Geeks 40k channel and welcome to our latest video. And I'm being joined by, some know him as that guy who plays Death Guard on the channel. Some know him as the guy who makes really nice rhinos. But we just know him as Mr. Ed Barfield.
You alright, guys?
Oh, welcome back to the channel, mate.
Again, yeah.
Again, yeah, you're getting popular. So, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of posts on Facebook and we've had a couple of questions in person before about the Horus Heresy and about how to get started on it, how to play it, the cost, how does it play differently to 40k. So we thought us two idiots would go through it with you and
We'll give it a go.
Give it a go, yeah. What the hell not? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through about how we picked our legions. Obviously you guys have followed my Ultramarines through the Road to 30k videos that I've been doing, and I've spoken about my Ultramarines in the last two Horus Heresy Weekender videos I think I've done. So for me, I was waiting. I'm into every single one of the Horus Heresy Weekenders with Ed and the guys, and I was waiting for a legion to grab me and to really just get me that point where you just go, yes, they're the ones.
I did want to force you to do other legions.
You did.
As well.
You did try to force me into the heresy a lot earlier, like book 1, for example. But you know, there's limited legions. So reading the Horus Heresy novels, I came across No Fear, and I was at that point when I got to the end of that book, I was like, Ultramarines. It's got to be the Ultramarines. And then I think it was the Horus Heresy Weekender, not this year, last year, when they released a sneak peek of Rabute Gulliman. And that was it. I was like, yep, sold, 100%, Forge will take my money. And that is how I got into doing my Ultramarines. I waited and waited and waited. They came along and I loved them. So, Ed, how did you get into Death Guard?
Death Guard, it's a real different kind of story for me. I've been doing Heresy since sort of like Tempest Fugitives time. I did sort of Iron Warriors and some other bits and pieces. And book 1 dropped and everyone kind of was like, in my group went mental. They really want to do this, we want to do something fun. And I was like, wow. You know, I really want to do something different. It may have been Ultramarines, it may not have been Ultramarines. And we were told at the time that it was going to be coming around about book 3.
Yeah, it was at the time.
And
they lied.
And we were like, oh yeah, I can wait till book 3. And then people started, a couple of mates started like Sons of Horus. And I was like, oh, I really want to do something. And the guy was like, well, what's in book 1? And I was like, well, it's Death Guard. I could do Death Guard. I did Nurgle before. I could do that more of kind of a slightly cleaner version, which didn't really work out that way. But what originally the plan was to have 2,000 points by my 30th birthday. That was the first event I ran.
It was, yeah.
And kind of said to everyone, you know, this would be a really cool project, something nice to sit down and do together. And I'm about, I mean, not legally, but about 9,000 points, I think, of Death Guard now, and still growing with.
So a bit of a side project. You've taken your time, got a bit slow.
Yeah, just a few years on it now, and then no end in sight, really.
You could try another legion.
I don't think I could do it to myself.
You've got solar.
I have got solar, yeah. I want to do more solar. That's definitely a project. For the future.
Solar are really nice, and obviously there's been a battle report against my Ultramarines that you guys really enjoyed. So I'm hoping to get them back on the channel soon.
Yeah, I want to try and get some more units done. Yeah. I try not to use the same army as others. Every time I play, I try and put something different in. But you know, not the same exact force.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Paint something new.
I'm painting Space Force.
But no, it's getting, once you have an idea of what you want to do, don't feel rushed. I mean, Rich took ages, and you know,
I did.
It's paid off. His Ultramarines are gorgeous. You really want to. Well, credit where it's due, but it's you've really got to remember that you know, Heresy. It's not about getting it to the table, getting playing. You can do that with 40k. You can do that with any system, any game system at all. With Heresy, one of the biggest draws is just the immense background.
Yeah.
The whole thing, you'll be able to flip from Black Library to Forge World stuff, and the scope is great. I really enjoy it. I think that's what's kept the project going so long.
Yeah. Don't feel rushed to picking a legion, and that's a very common theme actually that I've seen on social media, especially. It's like, how do I pick a legion? How do I choose which legion to do? It took me 4 years to pick a legion. After book 1 came out, it took me that long to decide to do the Ultramarines, and probably 6, 7, if not 8 years since the very first Black Library novel came out till the very first Horus Heresy Weekender. So take your time. don't listen to people who try to rush you into doing another Legion that you probably don't want to do or you wouldn't enjoy, because you'll fall out of love with them.
It's true. You see them on Facebook all the time. What Legion shall I do? Well, unfortunately, even if like Rich says, what Legion you want to do, I know Rich, I know him quite well, but you see people's posts all the time, and it's like, I don't know you. I could just spout off why my Legion is amazing, but that's my opinion. There's a reason that I enjoy that Legion over everything else.
You are wrong. Your Legion is awful.
Apparently it is, according to the videos,
Yeah, it is terrible.
It's terrible. But no, I think that's one of the biggest things of trying to get into the heresies is first, what Legion. Don't feel tied down, especially with things like Burning of Prospero, Tread of Calth. You can get the bulk of your army built into a generic point. You don't have to put shoulder pads on. You can put both on and use transfers like you do.
I use the Forge World upgrade kits for my shoulders. For my Ultramarines, they've all got the Forge World upgrade kits. So even though the Betrayal at Calth box set was designed for Word Bearers and for the Ultramarines, I paint them all up Ultramarines and just did transfers from a Dreadnought on the Terminators and then shoulder pads from Forge World for the Ultramarine troops. And it just makes them sing, it makes them pop.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to. So you can build up your army as a generic Legion. You don't have to like commit to a Legion itself. You can get it to the point where it's built and get playtesting. You may find that once you've got an army, you've gone through your little red books, what you want to take forward is a different Legion. If you've already built them and stuck shoulder pads on, it's a nightmare. But if you're using transfers, you can put both shoulder pads on. If you want to use Forger ones, just leave one shoulder pad blank. Don't put the shoulder on until you really have decided what you want. Yeah. And just really take your time. I know quite a few people. One of us in our group tends to paint everything. He'll remain nameless, but he knows who he is. But you can do that. It's what you want to do. If you want to try something different, I mean, one of the greatest things that they actually brought out for it is Shattered Legions.
Shattered Legions in the black shields, the black shoulders now.
It's black shields.
Black shields. I was the first time. Yeah,
but it's but realistically, Shattered Legion was brilliant because it meant that if you started painting some Emperor's Children and you suddenly go, actually, I want to do Night Lords. You can still use them together without having to scrap or strip or anything. You can still practice, and at that point, you might even turn and go, I don't really want to do Night Lords either, and you can add another Legion onto it and still use a Shattered Legion force. The options are really endless. I think that's really down to the efforts of Forge World guys. They've really worked hard to give you all these options that I didn't have but one.
No, shouldn't have jumped in at but one.
Oh no.
Forge World have also done on their website, they've done a little link so that it's a brief description of all of the Legions, the backgrounds. There's a little tiny bit about how they play. There's a little bit about their Primarch and their home world and all that kind of stuff. And that's worth a read, having a look through. And if if you are unsure about which Legion, just go onto the Forge World website, get started with the Heresy, and just have a read.
Yeah.
Have a read through. And if you're unsure, go read No Fear. Paint everything blue. Happy days.
And then start making little chip marks and call them Alpha Legion.
Yeah, they're the ones.
But the other things you've got to think about as well going forward is, well, a lot of people put on Facebook and sort of Twitter and that is, isn't it just Marine on Marine?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that a lot. That was my opinion. That was my opinion many years ago.
It's going to get boring. It's just Marine on Marine. And I'm like, no, it really isn't. Even before things like Solar and Mechanicum, you can think of the generic 40k Space Marine Codex and go, oh, well, it's just using that, isn't it? But it really isn't. No. Each of the Legions have got just that little bit of extraness to it. Things like the Rites of War. I've been to two Throne of Schools, one Shadow War campaign, various other little pick-up events and stuff. Some of the guys like Greetings from the Warp, they've done some events for Heresy.
Yeah, they're doing another one.
They are doing another one, yeah. And these are really cool things, and I've been to it and I've seen loads of Death Guard armies, and you walk around and they're not the same. You go to a 40k Throne of Schools, and no disrespect to the players, they're great players, but I kind of walk around and every Eldar army looks like the other Eldar army. It's painted differently and painted to different standards, that's fine, but each army looks like it's a perfect example of the same thing, just been cut, copied and pasted. Whereas you go to a Heresy event, you don't see it.
No.
Everyone kind of puts different things into it. Do you not find it yourself?
I find it when we was in Gibraltar. We were there with Andy Wardle, who is probably one of the best painters in the world right now, to be honest. He's amazing. And he was there with his Ultramarines, but he was there, like me, with a 30k Ultramarines list that was tailored for 40k. But there were two completely different lists. I had my Xiphon Flyer in there. We both had Spartans. He had his Thud guns in there. And even though they were the same force, they're 30k, they were completely different. But that's part of the joy of it. So Ed's right, you know, if you've got a competitive Eldar list, the odds are that if you come across another competitive Eldar list, it'll be the same. Same with Tau. Riptides, a few more Riptides.
Yeah.
And that'll be your list.
Which I think I played this Shadow War campaign at Warhammer World just recently. Now, my first game was against a Dark Angel player, and his Dark Angel list was 41 jet bikes and 2 units of 3 javelin attack speeders. No other Dark Angel army I've seen. When I first saw it, I won't lie, it was a lot of black. I thought, oh, Ravenwing, you know, Raven Guard.
Raven Guard.
And I was thinking, oh, you know, it's really cool. And it was when he fired his molecular acid shells at me. I was like, they don't get that. He's like, Dark Angels do. And I was like looking really close. I'm like, oh wow, you know, you really didn't notice it, but no other Dark Angel army I've seen looks like it. You know, they're normally quite Mark III heavy and all like checks and stuff. But this was a really fast moving kind of Ravenwing looking force. And it was different. I went on to play a Space Wolf player, which was very standard, you know, very very standard looking force, as you'd expect the Space Wolf player to have made his army. You know, it had a Typhon in it, a Spartan in it, and it was really hard hitting. The guy was hilarious. John, it was a great game, really good. All my games were good. I played an Imperial Fist player. Who again, an army did not look like it was going to be a generic looking Imperial Fist army. It was. Each had these different looks to it. You know, a lot of people do Templar Brethren kind of first company looking Imperial Fist army. This was different. This was a lot different. This was a few fast moving tanks and had an ally, some knights in there to really add some flavour. You know, that's 3 of the games I played. And each army, as you look around, you can go around and people can look at my Death Guard army, go to another Death Guard army. It looks different, not only on how I've painted it, because mine are really kind of a bit of a dodgy, off-beaten colour, and a lot
yellow.
Of
some would say yellow.
Some would say yellow, yeah. But each army, its makeup, its build is different.
Yeah.
It isn't even. I think the hardest thing with 40k really is those races. That's fine. So you need to remember what each army does and everything. Whereas with Heresy, you're all working from the same book.
Yeah.
But each army's different. Yeah,
because I mean, you take the Ultramarines of the Death Guard here. I mean, our troops will have exactly the same stat lines.
Yeah.
They will have exactly the same. Our Terminators will have, if we took Cataphractii Terminators, they would have exactly the same stat lines. Spartan, Scorpius, Xiphon Flyers, all the same. I know my army, I know Ed's army. The difference is when you throw in your Invictara Suzerains, your Death Shroud Terminators, you start throwing in your Primarchs and all this kind of stuff.
Your Legion rules, you know.
Yeah, your Legion rules are amazing.
These are the things that just, it makes that little tweak, there's that little thing, and although you are playing a Marine on Marine army, it isn't just Marine on Marine. Everything kind of has a difference to it. And I think as the armies have grown and access to more things, and you know, it changes the outlook of things. And then that doesn't even include things like Mechanicum. You know, you can add a Praevian into your army and start having Mechanicum units, and you're like, yeah, that makes our whole world of pain, you know. And then you've got Solar Auxilia, you've got Cult Militia, you've got all these access, even just a pure, you know, ally a Questoris Knight army to your force if you know you're inclined.
Yeah, do it.
But it means that it's not just, you know, people say, oh, but is it still the same? It really isn't.
No, it's not.
But the breaker for me is the missions.
Oh, the missions. The missions in the 30k rulebooks are absolutely amazing. So the 40k rulebook, you've got your standard 6 Eternal War, and you've got your standard 6 Maelstrom missions. In the black books, we've got how many now?
You've got like from campaign for book 4. They have some different missions in those. All the red books come with the standard 6 missions. And each of the actual books have got something different campaigns, different missions you can take from it. Even just like historical reenactment. So you can do that. Yeah,
Calth's a prime example of that. So in book 5, there's missions for Calth.
Yeah. So and they are not just using the standard mission and adding a little flavour text to it. These are missions that are designed differently just for that.
Which is the reason why we love doing them as battle reports, because Eternal War missions are great, Maelstrom missions are fantastic. The missions inside of Horus Heresy just give you that complete and utter different flavour. Like attrition is one of the secondary missions that you can do, which is basically kill points
Yeah.
But then you've also got going on the actual main mission. You've got challenge as well.
I do like challenge.
Challenge is
Shadow
great.
War.
So Shadow War mission for challenge is literally kill off the opponent's commander
with your commander
in close combat.
No, you can him by range. You can kill as long as your warlord.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If your warlord can kill him by combat or by range, it has to be him that does the final blow. The game ends. That's it. Done.
Yeah. Turn 2, job. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because yours sits in a Spartan for 7 turns.
You do say that, but I played Nice Guy Martin at the Shadow War campaign. I've played him before with his Corax, and I killed him in his turn 3 combat. We decided he didn't want to run away. He wanted to really kind of get in there and Mortarion killed him.
You must have taken a very nasty list. What was in your list? What was the big thing that's about this big one's cost?
It was a Mastodon.
Mastodon. That's right. He took a Mastodon.
It was a good list.
For you, not your opponents.
Well, ask Paul Busfield that.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I think that the big things to take from it is, say, we've just said about, take your time, pick the legion you want. But is it a legion you want? Do you want to do Solar Auxilia? Do you want to do Mechanicum? There are many options. Even inside those, they're just starting to touch on Dark Mechanicum stuff.
Oh, yes.
And, I mean, each book breaks my hold on things a little bit more. I cracked and did Solar, and there's always time. I could do a little Mechanicum Force, I could ally it in.
Yeah.
There's loads of things to look at, I think, really.
I mean, the other thing with the missions as well is the different kind of deployment zones that you get, or the deployment setups.
Yeah.
There's loads. It's not just the 3 you get in 40k. So it's not just Dawn of War, Hammer and Anvil, and your Vanguard Strike. There's 6 of them. There are 6 basic in the Horus Heresy, including one where the deployment zone is a big circle in the middle of the board, and everything comes to try and kill you. So you're kind of being outflanked all the time, which is pretty cool.
It's a tough mission.
That is quite a hard one. We'll actually try and film one of them as a battle report quite soon.
Yeah, not with me, yeah.
Maybe. Ed will be in the middle and I'll be killing him. It's because you.
But no, the missions and the way the deployments are, I mean, they touch on things that are not standard. So you've got to think, most people, when they play a game 40k, First Blood. For most of the Shadow War missions, First Blood isn't a secondary objective. Just isn't there.
Just not there.
And that gives a different element to things. And it's whereas Maelstrom's very objective based. Having these things, I think that's one of the biggest things with 30k missions. They're not always to your advantage. See the last battle report I did against Raven Guard, where I held lots of objectives, but actually some of them were trapped, and you roll a dice on a 6, you actually lose D3 victory points.
Your dice rolling was appalling.
3 times. But that brings a whole new flavour to the game, because you're not just, I'm going to hold this objective, I've got this objective, I've got these 3, I have just won. Yeah, look at me. No, there's still an element to the game which you can.
It's fate. It's fate. It's down to those dice cards and whether or not you win that battle, and that's great because it can come down to literally the last
dice roll,
last dice roll of the game, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, one of the other things between 30k and 40k that I like personally is in 30k only troops can score, or only troops can hold objectives really. So you can contest with other.
Yeah, everything can contest. That,
but you can only hold with troops. So it's kind of like 6th edition 40k, where was it 6th? Where only troops could hold objectives in 40k, but other things could contest. And then obviously 7th edition that's out now for 40k, everything can hold objectives again.
I think you're right. It makes a difference, but then a lot of the Heresy missions aren't objective based.
They're not.
They have an objective basement to it. There's some that you have to get into the opponent's deployment zone with scoring units. You're not holding an objective, but to put your units that close to the enemy is a bit risky.
Yeah.
So I think, could everything score and then just bum rush them with everything? It doesn't make for a fun game.
Doesn't.
Robin might enjoy a game like that.
Robin would probably enjoy bum rushing anybody that he gets his hands on, to be quite honest.
But, well, there you go. But it's looking forward to each release. I mean,
yeah.
The books, each time a book comes out, even if your Legion is not in there, I've bought them, the wealth of background stuff in there, and it can.
Oh, the fluff is amazing.
It can spur on even small elements of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, I think, the difference. I think with say 40k is having a big push at the minute with kind of their kind of version of End Times.
Yeah.
But when I first started in the hobby, it was a dream. You know, we read this about Heresy, and I used to have conversations in my local game store, and you know, oh, but it'll never happen. And then when Tempest started doing their stuff, you know, I got onto it, but then in stores it was very frowned upon. You know, we don't really allow that sort of thing, and it was like, oh, but I still kept to it, and you stick with it, and then. I remember the Horus Rising book come out, and I only ever read fantasy stuff, only ever, and I read it for the first time, and I just remember just sitting reading it and going, this could be really cool, you know, but how long do you reckon it's gonna, you know, will this? I'll finally give us the push, and now all these years later, you know, we've got Custodes in plastic, Sister Silence, you know, it's like we've got a plastic Demon Primarch coming, you know, that's
never thought that, to be honest.
Never. Never.
But I mean, it's the same as Ed. I mean, I've been playing this since I was like 12. I think Robin and Peter first got me into this. And then you get to about 16, 17, you kind of find beer and girls, and then the hobby goes out the window for a while. And we came back to it, and then it went off again. And then I remember being in a bookstore and seeing the first Horus Heresy novel and picking it out, going, ooh, what's this? And going, oh my god, they've finally done what we've been asking for since we were 12. They've done the Horus Heresy in novel form. Let's have a read. And I actually met Dan Abnett at the very first one, and I actually got him to apologise to me because it's his fault that I'm now back onto 40k and 30k. So, thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. And he's made me spend lots of money. Lots and lots. Damn it. So one of the biggest differences between 30k and 40k, personally, I think, is the amount of rules that you've got to remember. Like we said before, if I know my army, I pretty much know most of Ed's army. Where 40k at the moment, you've got the main core rule set.
Yeah.
You've got Death from the Skies. You've got the Fenrisian War. You've got the second part of that coming out soon as well. You've got all of these different add-ons. There's the Orc add-on as well, and there's the second Space Marine add-on codex.
They've just released a combination of Planet Strike, Stronghold Assault, and another one is another book.
Cities of Death.
Is it Cities of Death?
It is Cities of Death.
I do like Cities of Death.
I like Cities of Death.
It does make a lot.
It does. There's a lot of rules out there for 40k that you've got to remember. You've got to understand how things have changed since the rulebook came out to where it is now. So with your flyers, they're all different. And you kind of agreed at the start, it's like, are we using this one? No, get rid. Are we using this one? No, get rid. And it's a lot to take in, where 30k rules, yes, they use the basic rule set of 40k. Movement, shooting, assault, all exactly the same. Morale, everything is exactly the same. But there isn't this diluted and watered down rule set.
I think, I mean, although we are now up to 6, soon 7 black books, realistically, the books you need to use, you have...
I have them here.
A couple of examples.
Conveniently. These two. That's it.
So, of these two, you have your generic, your core, Space Marine stuff, and then this, which is the Legion-specific stuff. Now, that only covers up until Ultramarines, I think, which is the last one.
Yeah, book 5, this one does.
But... they're effectively your codexes.
Yeah. If you want to start into Horus Heresy and you don't want to buy the £75 each black book because there are 6 of them, that's quite a lot of money. You just need that, and you need that.
But make sure it is definitely
the new one, because there's 2 versions of these, and the covers are
that one's different.
Slightly different.
The Legion one is very similar. It has still got the eye.
So it's just
worded different at the bottom. So it's worth double checking that it's the right one.
Make sure you get... The easiest way to know if you've got the latest version of this is look in heavy support and look for the Legion jet bike Sky Slayer support squadron. If that's in heavy support, the latest version. If it's not listed,
it's not.
Wrong version. Because a lot of these are on eBay at the moment, and it's people saying they're older books, and people obviously starting to come around a bit more to Horus Heresy and looking on eBay for a cheap alternative.
I've got a bargain.
Oh, I've got a bargain. It's £10. Oh, it's the wrong one.
Yeah. It can dishearten people, just put them off doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, it can do.
I think you've got to remember with the rules is, 30k still has the option to use things like Death from the Skies. You can still do Cities of Death games.
You can do.
But you'll find in some of the black books that they've kind of updated them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love and can use for 40k and 30k is Zone Mortalis games. One day I will convince you to get a set so I can play it here and not have to keep trying to... If for guys that know and guys don't know, Warhammer would have a feature board which is a Zone Mortalis board. It is booked every time you go up.
It's really annoying.
It's really hard. I mean, people see like the massive bridge board, and I've played on that loads, and it's a gorgeous board. But you do kind of sit there and you're kind of pieing across at this like Zone Mortalis board, and it annoys me when you're there all day and it doesn't get used until the afternoon. I could have played on that in the morning. Because Zone Mortalis is quick pickup games. That's the other thing as well.
Yeah.
Heresy has I always get this name wrong. Tactical Assault. It's kind of like their version of Kill Team.
Yes, it's Tactical Assault.
And it's brilliant. It's again something if you want to try something out, try those. And we say that with 40k it's got so many rules to remember. Heresy does have these things, but they're optional.
Yeah, you don't have to do them if you don't want to.
You know, I don't do that. Take it away. 40k they tend to roll these things in, and obviously when 8th edition comes out, which I believe is probably mid next year.
8th edition.
Next year.
Next year.
I reckon. Yeah. I think that's going to have a lot of these things put in. I think realistically they're going to try and cut back on them. I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I think so. I think they did it with Age of Sigmar when they went from Fantasy 9th to Age of Sigmar. They kind of culled a lot of the rules because it had got too bloated, it got too big, and that's kind of where 40k is at the moment. Personally, don't get me wrong, I still love playing 40k, and obviously we do battle reports on it, and it's great fun. But there is a lot to remember, and I'm getting old, and I can't remember everything.
I'm not a young man. Speaking of bloated, and not me, formations.
Oh,
this is a face of a man that does not like formations. It's not formations that I don't like, it's the fact that they're free. It really put me off playing 40k because it's like, well, I'm going to play this nice balanced 1850 point list, and you've got the same list, but you've got over 2,000 points because you've got all these free stuff. Where was the balance in that? I mean, with a lot of people hate Age of Sigmar, I like Age of Sigmar. I think even soon. But that's the thing is with like that they actually realise that you need points to these things to make it more balanced.
And I think Lawrence and Tabletop Tactics is a big. It has said that quite a few times. We did the interview a YouTuber with Winters. And it was a question of what would you change in 40k, and I think Lawrence's answer was points in formation because it makes sense. And you're right. You rack up with 1,500, and your opponents end up with 2,000, and it's got free stuff all over the board. How's that fair? How's that a fun game? I've not come across that personally yet. I'm looking at you, Robin. Robin.
He'll do it.
He will. I know he will. But it's kind of like, how is that a fun game for the opponent that's automatically 500 points down, their guns down and everything else? And how formations, controversial, how formations ruined 40k? Discuss.
I don't know. I don't know if it's ruined 40k, but I think it makes you think. When you're having to plan what your units go in what, and then all of a sudden, well, if I just take this, I get free transport, so hey, doesn't matter. It makes list buildings a little bit boring. And I like writing a list. Not as much as my friend Matt, and I'll say it again, Matt, who loves writing lists, some of which make me cry, like openly weep. But it's trying to... A lot of people find with 40k, you try and squeeze every little point you can. Yeah. And if you're given free stuff, it kind of makes them want to squeeze even more points and still get free stuff.
But as a business model from a company, fantastic.
Free transports, buy lots of transports.
Buy them now. Buy more rhinos, buy more razorbacks. And it's a great business model, so you can understand why they do it.
Yeah.
But there are no formations in 30k. There's your...
Yet.
Not, okay, yet. We'll go with yet.
I say yet because Book 7's not out, and if it hasn't been, then I can't say that. So
yeah, if you're watching this after Book 7 has come out and formations are in it, we're wrong and we're sorry. That's Ed's fault. But it's kind of like, at the moment, you've got your rights of war, you've got your legion traits and all this kind of stuff, but there's positives and negatives to each one. So they do give you a bonus, but they also take something away, which I really like.
I mean, things like, the most common, from when Book 1 was released, the most common used right of war was Pride of the Legion.
Still using it?
Yeah, I mean, they edited it with the new book. They actually went back and just made small tweaks to it. This was, this was one of the things that I found I actually overlooked when I first got the book, and because who checks all those? And one of my friends pointed out that you now have to have more units with Legion Astartes than without, and that's important. More. The same can be said for the newer version of Pride of Legion, which people use at the moment, which is Primarchs Chosen, which allows you to take a Primarch as a HQ choice. That's big. That's really important. But again, these things have restrictions. So with Pride of the Legion, if you lose your veterans, which you can take as troops, and your Terminators, which you can take as troops, you lose extra victory points.
Yeah.
With Primarchs Chosen, if your Primarch dies, you still suffer the extra point loss for losing. It is a Lord of War, but it's actually just a HQ choice. You still lose that point. And that makes a big difference in games.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's also the fact that with my Ultramarines have got these really nice traits. So if you've got a tactical squad in combat with another squad, and my other unit wants to go join them, I can re-roll my dice for that second unit going in if I don't like the result. If you have a one unit open up at another unit, and then another Ultramarines unit open up, they re-roll once. So you fire with the Rhino, you then Fury of the Legion, which means and you're in rapid fire range, let's say. So instead of getting 20 dice in a 10-man squad, you get 40 dice. You re-roll any ones. And my Legion's the only Legion that can do that.
But again, another drawback to things like these extra rules, like things like Fury of the Legion, you can't move. So you've got to be in stationary to fire, and then in the following turn you cannot fire, and you cannot stand and shoot.
No snapshots, no nothing. If somebody charges you, you're toast. But the drawback for the Ultramarines one, and again, this is what I mean. The other positive one for the Ultramarine, while I'm just on it, is if you have a falling back squad, they automatically rally at leadership 10. There could be one guy left, and he'll just automatically rally on leadership 10, turn around and start fighting again. But the drawback is the Ultramarines are so rigid and so stuck on their chain of command and their HQ choices that if all my HQ choices die, everything has to take a pinning test.
Yeah.
Everything has to pass it. Otherwise, they just get to ground like, Sergeant, what the hell's going on?
Interesting you said pinning. Death Guard, we don't take pinning checks.
Yeah, but Ultramarines do.
And I love that. And it was really fun up until the point where I went, I'll go to ground. But to go to ground, you've got to fail a pinning test. And I pass all pinning tests, so it's like, I can't go to ground.
Yeah.
Which is another drawback. It's great, but each of these things, although, it sounds like there's a lot of rules to remember, because everyone's army works from the same generic makeup, you only really need to learn this very small amount of text for your legion.
Yeah.
And the more you play against other legions, trust me, you soon remember the stuff they can do. And that's kind of one of the big things.
Like Mortarian ghosting across the board, like 50.
I call it ghosting. I actually caught somebody else calling it ghosting at the event. I was like, why'd you call it ghosting? And he was like, I saw it on a battle report. Me. But yeah, a Mortarian in the shooting phase can, instead of shooting, can take a leadership test. If he passes it, he can redeploy within 10 inches of his current position. He can leave a unit. As long as he can go over terrain, go through terrain, as long as it doesn't end on it. And he can still assault that turn. It's just a disorganised charge, which to a Primarch is nothing.
No.
That's something I'd like to change, actually. Disorganised charge is too good. You don't get your bonus for attacking.
Yeah.
Big whoop. I think it should be reduced initiative. And we need to have another negative. But wait until I change Legion. So I don't have to suffer the
the wrath of it.
But this is the thing, and there's so many fine things with these, and things like comparing it to 40k is really a difficult thing, because you could talk for hours and hours and hours on just one of the small sections that is different. People play, like, you go to events and stuff for 40k, and the main sort of points you play is sort of 1850.
Yeah.
And they can go like a full 2 hours. With Heresy, everything is bigger, badder, harder. Everything is just the pinnacle of amazingness of the technology of its time. So I found that a 2,000 point game, where normally I could spend all afternoon, and some people would say a 2,500 point game was apocalypse size, is a pickup game.
Yeah, it's a small game in 30k.
I can play it sort of 45 minutes to an hour, and not like just smashing my opponent, having a fun game, but because the way that the weaponry works and the sheer amount of like firepower and things that can kill stuff off.
Yeah. I mean, we've got weapons in 30k that aren't around in 40k, which makes sense. 10,000 years have passed. They've kind of forgotten a lot of the technology that they had at the time of this. Like Gravflux Bombard on Leviathan Dreadnoughts. Phosphex launchers. Bye-bye, they're not in 40k. Volkite chargers, weapons that we've got in 30k. And it's these nice little flavours that they do that makes it, even though it's the same core rule set, it makes it completely different to 40k because we've got access to stuff that 40k players don't.
Yeah, some of the big things is, and I had this actually on a battle report, a question which is, why didn't my Typhon charge Rebute?
Yes.
In 30k, there are very, very few people that have Eternal Warrior.
Mm-hmm. Nobody's got it apart from.
It's a Salamander character can be given it through a piece of equipment. Very few characters, things like Garrow, Primarchs.
Yeah.
But very few sort of line troopy kind of Praetors, Chapter Masters and stuff. There's none that really have Eternal Warrior, and that actually makes a big difference, especially in say missions like Challenge where you need to kill your opponent's Warlord. But it does make games really fast. And it's also on a points level. That's the thing to remember is these games, the Shadow War campaign I played was actually 3,000 points. I didn't have a game that went to time. I mean, I was tabled once, and each of the games were quite flowing quite fast because of the scale of which the weaponry is used. Some people say, it's OP weaponry, but when both sides have got it and it's the same stuff. It isn't. It's just a balanced game with really cool shiny toys.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's a key thing to say about Heresy. It's all about the cool shiny toys.
Yeah, it's the rule of cool.
Yeah, I've taken units that are completely pointless, but they just look really cool, like rhinos.
Your rhinos do look very nice. There's other little touches like the fact that in 30k the Space Marines don't have "We Shall Know No Fear." It is not a known... At this point in time, in the history, it's not a thing. Gulliman has not set up the codexes. Gulliman has
annoyed everyone.
And annoyed everybody, apart from himself. Gulliman hasn't sorted out the legions after the heresy ended. So, because we're in the middle of it, your troops and your Space Marines can fail a morale check, run out of combat, and be charged down. And it just makes it awesome. It just makes it... Because we're both the same, because we're Marine versus Marine in a lot of cases, I can beat him, I can charge him down, and I can kill him. Where 40k, you can't do that. And it makes sense in 40k because Gulliman stood there and gone, I'm going to overhaul everything, I'm going to make codexes, and you're all going to adhere to me, apart from Space Wolves and a couple of others.
I think you're right. And They Shall Know No Fear is a big rule for Marine players in 40k. And it wasn't really until sort of your 4th, 5th game. To give you an idea of Heresy, if you're playing a World Eater army that's geared up for combat, you will know this rule very well. But a lot of armies weren't geared up for that. They were, Book 1 dropped and it was a close combat World Eater army, and then most of the other forces are kind of more shooty.
Yeah.
So it was kill them before they get into combat, or you're going to run away. And then as the books have developed, and you've got your things like Emperor's Children with the new Palatine Blade upgrades and stuff, it really kind of twisted it. It really gave you that look into a different type of game. Again, I'm a Marine versus a Marine, but it's not. When you've got a Solar Auxilia that's forcing units like Tactical Marines to break and run away, that's happened.
It does happen.
I've used it, and it's in the future that wouldn't happen. And
no.
It's another touch on these things. The key points to remember is things like the missions, the way the game is played. The toys are bigger. I often have people look at my army and go, it's quite small. And it's like, it's not small. There's 3,000 points.
All in a Mastodon.
But it's not small. It does work. It does have its place in the game. You can play massive, humongous cult list armies. Again, I mentioned Matt and his humongous cult list army, which is mainly on paper at the minute, but it's slowly being built and it's quite scary. And you kind of have that look of the game's twisted. It's not. It's not just a simple me versus you, and I know this, I'm going to do this. Everything's more flavourful, which it looks better. And when I say looks better, it it has a warfare thing. You've read the novels, you've seen like this, and it's like they describe in most of the 40k novels, it's a tactical squad of guys going in and they're destroying full like cult militia armies, and in Heresy it's not. It's massive mass warfare. There's giant tank battles. You can have an option in 30k to take only tanks. Yeah. Which is what Bear did for the Shadow War campaign.
You can take just dreadnoughts if you wanted to. There is a...
Now, the downside to the dreadnought army, I will say, is that for every dreadnought you lose, you give up a victory point.
Yeah.
And that is a massive downside. And in an event where I remind that Heresy isn't like Maelstrom, so you're not like generating loads and loads and loads of points. You can hemorrhage. You can get to the point where you can lose so many dreadnoughts, you cannot win the game.
Yeah.
As happened to one of the guys at the last event I went to.
I mean, it's the other little touches that I love, like the fact that your standard tactical squads, your 10-man tactical squad, you can pimp them out.
Right.
You can pimp them out. So they're not really allowed heavy weapons unless they're a veteran tactical squad.
Yeah.
And then they can take a heavy weapon choice. So there's no heavy bolters in the squad, so they don't get slowed down. Everybody's got their bolters. But you can pimp the sergeant out. You can pimp him out in artificer armour, which gives him a 2-up save. You can give him a power sword. You can take Nuncio Voxes.
Yeah.
You can take your Rhinos. You can do all of this. And so you can take your bulk standard 10-man squad, and then you can evolve them and make them your own. Nuncio Voxes, something else that is amazing. I haven't got line of sight from my Scorpius Whirlwind, but Jeff over in the corner of the battlefield can see perfectly fine, so I'm going to use him because he's voxing across the Vox network to tell me where the target is. Amazing.
Little upgrades, like the biggest change since the last book is Rhinos with pintle-mounted multi-melters is definitely something that's new.
Yeah.
But the big thing you have to remember with Heresy is people ask the question a lot is I would play Heresy, but it's so expensive to get into. Yeah. It's a lot. Even before Betrayal at Calth, before Burden of Prospero, it was a lie. It was a lie. You can laugh. It was a lie. Look at his face. Does his face look like it lies? It doesn't. It was a lie. The reason it was a lie was with anything in the hobby, you spend as much or as little as you want to on the hobby. Yeah. Just because I'm a nutter and spent over £100 on a Rhino doesn't mean you have to, and doesn't mean you're wrong for not doing that. But you have these options, and everyone's like, oh, I don't know. But things like Pride of the Legion, which allows you to take veteran squads as your troops, means you could have 2 Rhinos and 2 5-man veteran squads and a Praetor, and you've got an army. It may not be the most effective army, but you can get started and you can build up. And things like the Tactical Assault means that you can take these small scale games. You can play things like, you ditch your Rhinos, you can play Zone Mortalis. Yeah. And they're designed at sort of, 1k plus. There's lots of these things that the myth was because it was Heresy and there was massive things and Primarchs and massive super heavies. You had to have it. Rich doesn't have, well, I don't think got super heavy yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
But, and has played very successful, has beaten me without a super heavy. And, it's not the be all and end all. Cost is a thing. With this hobby, it isn't cheap. I do other hobbies and I have done other hobbies which are more expensive, but the big thing to say, and if you are watching this and you're considering doing Heresy, you can spend as much or as little as you want. With the advantage now of things like Burning of Prospero and Betrayal at Calth, it is the golden age of Heresy. You can get in for relatively cheap comparative to other things. It gives you the option. The key thing there is, don't be afraid of cost. Yeah, I mean the books. If you want the background, they are £75 plus. There's no getting around it. But you don't need that to start. You can use the red books. You can use things like Quartermaster, although it doesn't have all the rules in it. You will need to look back into the books. But it has that kind of gives you an idea of what the points levels are without giving you the full rules. And I think that's kind of the key thing to remember.
I mean, it's going back to that golden age thing as well. I mean, I think because it's the 5th Horus Heresy weekend in February next year, the tickets sold out this year quicker than I think any year that we've been out of the last 4.
I was on hold for 28 minutes, got through, got mine, and then was hounding you to get yours. You got yours, and if you hadn't, you'd have missed out.
Yeah, and because if you go to the previous year, the Horus Heresy event, you get the option to buy your tickets early.
Yeah.
So we obviously got an email through saying your tickets are now available. Do you want them?
There has been a big controversy over that on the fact that you can order up. There's a myth that you could order 6. You couldn't. It was that you could order 4 tickets. I mean, I ordered 2, one for me, one for my wife. And people think it's an unfair advantage, and it's not. It's Forge way of trying to reward the guys that went before and don't want to miss out just because they're at work. And you know, it does kind of pay to keep going, and they kind of want more people. There's a lot of people asking to expand it, make it bigger, sell more tickets, make more money. But the problem with that is the whole feel, or more. The other one was they wanted more Heresy Weekenders, and I said that, to be honest, the reason that I go, it's a £70 ticket.
75 this year.
Oh, 75 this year, yeah. £75 ticket. The reason I go is that it's small scale. It's really kind of like
350.
It's between 350 and 500 people, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So it's quite small compared to like the old games days and open days that they do.
And it's kind of you don't feel rushed talking to the sculptors, the painters. Whereas at things like games day, you kind of feel like someone behind you going, move along, move along. So it would, in my eyes, take the shine off it if there was more. Would I be angry if I missed one? Probably. I've done them all, but. When Games Workshop that first started in these sort of events, there was no internet, there was no kind of... So to go and see these models, you had to be there. You had, and and if you take blurry pictures as like small kids kind of stretching your arms out.
Yeah.
But now, you don't need to go to get information. You've got people like the Imperial Truth.
Yeah.
And things like that who will do complete rundowns.
We do a review video at the end of the weekend, so we're planning on doing it again for the next one. So at the end of the weekend, I will sit down and I'll film what's happened. I'll film while I'm there as well, and it's just a way to get that information across to you guys. So even if you haven't got a ticket, you're missing out on the atmosphere and the close knitness of that group, because you can walk down a corridor and go, oh look, there's Alan Blythe, and he's sitting down having a coffee, but you can stop and talk to him, probably sit down and have a coffee with him, maybe. And it's that little closeness that you get when you're there, because it's limited numbers of tickets. But it's unfair for you guys out there to miss out if you haven't got a ticket, or if you missed out and got a ticket. So that's why people like us and other people do videos and blogs and stuff.
The important thing is, on regards to the tickets, was the reason that Forge World said you could order up to 4 tickets was their idea was you and 3 other mates that went last year will order theirs together to kind of cut down the queues, so you're not on hold for 28 minutes. My arms almost died. But I wasn't going to give up. I want to go, but these are things. But it doesn't work that way. It tends to be one person, and he's bringing 3 new friends.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things I understand why there's a lot of hate online for it.
Yeah. We've seen tickets being resold and things like that. So they do need to kind of clamp down on that, and but people are willing to pay the prices on resale sites for the tickets, and people are willing to pay for it. It is a great event. I personally wouldn't do it.
No, it's a destination event.
It is. It's not held at Warhammer World,
no.
For starters. It's not held at the Rico, where they've done a few open days. This is at a hotel in Nottingham, on the outskirts of Nottingham, and it's a nice hotel. It's a spa hotel, so you'll have people walking around who are going off for treatments, and we're all geeking it up over plastic stuff. It's a little bit weird, but it's that smaller event, and you're right, it is a destination event. You can get a hotel room for the weekend. You don't actually have to leave the site. No. And it's just very, very, very immersive in everything. There's painting tutorials, there's your artwork, there's seminars about the books and about the artwork and about up-and-coming miniatures, and it's great.
You've seen the massive artworks and stuff from the books. There was one of, I think it's a Contemptuous Dreadnought running, and I was watching the guy masterfully do it, and there's like in the right at the top there's like a tiny little explosion. It's just like a little asterisk, and he's zooming in, and he's getting closer and closer and closer, and as he's getting right zoomed into this thing, it's a Storm Eagle, and it's got bits flying, and it's like, but I can't see that in the other picture. And he's like, yeah, but it's there so that they can go back in and just take that section out.
Yeah. Rather
than just putting a small dot of explosion, all the work is there. And to sit down with the guys with the sketchbooks and stuff, and they were talking about how they do the character. There was a whole seminar on things like planets, how they designed the planets and taking skins and stuff. And
it's amazing.
It's great. But the thing that I will say is it is a massive danger warning.
Should come with a warning logo.
It should have a massive warning to this. Is
I probably won't do that.
Once I'm going to edit it. Massive warning. Is once you start down this road to heresy, it's not like 40k where you kind of like just switch off and switch and do something else. I tried. I really have. You end up going to these events. The heresy event. You go in enthused about heresy. You walk out to a new level that you didn't realise that was there.
Yeah.
And it's not just from the guys going, look at our shiny stuff, buy our shiny stuff. It is literally from all the other people that are there, and you're talking to them, and you kind of get to know these people. You see them at events, and you see them walking on like places like Warhammer World. I mean, I'm so lucky to be so close to Warhammer World to get to go around. Yeah. And once you start down this path, it becomes quite encompassing.
It destroys really your life. Ed is actually only 17 years old.
I had hair. I sold it.
Plastic crack.
No, but it's true. The thing is, 40k is quite one of these games that it can get obsessive, and you can get into
quite easily.
And I see a lot of people that they know everything, and heresy is like 12 times the amount of background stuff, and you see a lot of 40k armies where they've made their own chapter up, and it looks amazing, and they've got their own backstory and all this, and you see the heresy stuff, and there's a tiny marking on their sergeant's armband. You're like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's for this. Oh, it's something you made up. Oh no, it's in this book, and it's in this and this, and you're like, oh, I've not even seen that, and it becomes one, and then you start following it, and you take things from this, and it is quite an addictive.
Addictive game. It is addictive. I mean, I've obviously been paying up my Ultramarines, which you guys have been following, and my Space Hulls and my Orcs and my Chaos haven't actually been touched while I've been doing this. I've just been solely concentrating on my Ultramarines. A, to get them ready for battle reports, but B, I just love painting them. And even though I painted up 30 tactical squads and they're all blue, I wasn't sick and tired of painting them up. If that had been Space Wars, I'd have gone, flip the table, I'm going home, this is rage quit. But just painting up just normal, just tactical Marines was just a joy, and it's like started to mess with my head a little bit.
I like blue. No, these are the things. I mean, the main thing you've got to say is 40k. It's good.
It's great.
Yes, it's getting to the point where it's a little bit bloated. It's got some things that could be trimmed. Some things that are kind of a bit
like your beard.
Like my beard. Can't actually see quite how long it is, but it's about there. Yeah. But no, there's bits that need to be changed, and you look at 30k as Alan Bly's way of kind of looking at 40k and just adding a different twist.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you spent £75 on a big black book, and you'd open it up, and the funky missions in there are just Maelstrom missions worded differently, you'd be a bit like, well, I'll give it a go. It'd be fun because it's different armies, but is it anything? It's like facepalm. It's not. There's so much stuff that's been put in that makes the game different. It's cut out things like a lot of the missions First Blood, because that's been a real contention point to a lot of people. It's cost people games, that really lucky first turn and then losing First Blood, or getting on to turn 3 and not having First Blood, and you're panicking.
Which I did against your brother.
You're throwing las cannons at like rear end of Rhino, just needing First Blood.
Something die.
Why isn't it dead yet? And that's kind of the thing, and Alan's taken, it's his baby, and he's kind of taken Heresy to a different level of gaming. They've taken out bits that are not working, they've put in bits that are, and they've kind of tweaked around with things, and they've given you the campaign settings that make a difference. It does, like I say, playing a Shadow War mission, it was different, and you kind of like reading the red book. It's like there is no First Blood. The second objective is only like slay the warlord. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, challenge, you need it, otherwise it goes to attrition. Yeah. And people ask, it makes that more of a, I can't say realistic, but a more realistic sort of thing. You've not killed the thing, so how much damage have you caused to the opponent to stop his advance? It's
kind of like with no line breaker as well. You don't need to rush it, because in 30k only troops and score. You get your scoring units in the deployment zone. You've got to rush them, but there is a mission, because you played it against Greetings from the War, where you've got to get your scoring units into the deployment zone. So rather than it being a secondary, they've kind of based an entire mission around that, and it just adds this whole different flavour to it.
The thing is, I was a big Maelstrom fan. I liked the idea of the cards and how it works. There's some that need to be changed, but the idea is sound. What I don't like is, this turn I need to commit everything to this guy over here, and then I've got to drag him across the next board, and I've got to do this. And the way that they've kind of counted, like I say, they've made the entire mission based on getting into your opponent's deployment zone, and it's you in your mind you're already starting to put that into a game.
Yeah.
You're trying to push forward into this advance. You're trying to push them back, and it's no good dumping your artillery in there if there's no physical people to protect that advancement.
Yeah.
Again, which is why scoring units are so important. But another thing, obviously, to quickly go back into rules is certain units in Heresy have implacable advance.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes them scoring. Again, that is something that's really cool and it's really flavoursome, and people can base armies around it.
And my Primarch, Rebute, can give one of my other units implacable advance. So I could give my jet bikes implacable advance that Ed torched with his Malcador.
I have to die.
Yeah, but it means that they can go 12 inches across the battlefield, hold an objective, even though they're fast attack.
Yeah.
They count as objective secured, basically, and all be down to my Primarch if he's on the board. And it's little touches like that. Raven Guard.
While Corax
is on the board, 6 inches a run. Don't need to roll it, they just run.
Yeah.
It's like, they're coming at me really fast.
It adds to their lightning strikes and things. I think each Legion, though different, but has that core starting point, means that it does. A lot of people only see Marine versus Marine, but we now, as you start to look into it, you see more unit versus unit. It's just the core block and then small sections for you to learn. And the thing is, there's no point trying to learn things like, Night Lords. If you don't have anyone in your circle that wants to play Night Lords, you don't need to sit and try and read through. But when you're in a group of guys that have got Tau, Eldar, Nids, you've got to read, and then you've also got to read the little supplements that come with it, just in case they've taken that book to the next level.
Or trust them.
Well, yeah, trust is a big thing, and something that you'll find with Heresy, there's a lot of trust because you're all going from the same book. So if someone cheats, they know.
Yeah, we know. Robin.
I'm not saying Robin, I'm saying you when you're running Cataphracti.
All right, but I got excited. I was like,
But you trust these people to make these moves while you're not watching. But this is the thing is it's Heresy over 40k. The community is great. The community is ever expanding. Same with 40k. Same with most of the Games Workshop games at the minute.
Yeah.
The community feels really there, backed up by a company that's really. I'm not going to say change, but I'm going to say is opening up their avenues of what they are. Showcasing
it's stepping
new
up.
things.
It's stepping up to that mark that has been a gaping hole from Games Workshop's point of view, with not neglecting the community. That's probably too strong a word. Just forgetting about us a little bit, I think. So we've gone off and done our own thing.
Yeah, I think they're really taking great steps to build the community back up. I'm gonna say it. Some people may not like it. Some people may. Currently, the Warhammer World Events team, brilliant, fantastic. Nick and John are two of the guys that I speak to quite regularly at events. I will bug them and make loud noises to get their attention.
Like random noises?
Just random.
Like
just
sheep noises?
Well, just scream. Gets their attention. But no, they're doing great things. They're really focusing on a new system. If you've not attended their events, they have different scales. So you've got a win at all cost style event. So it's all about the win and about getting as many victory points as you can. And they've even got scenarios and cards and stuff that give you even more victory points for doing different things. And it really and you can see these before the event, so you can really theme an army to go for that full win, that proper alpha strike, and take it turn 1, turn 2. Doesn't matter. Don't even learn your opponent's name. Just go in, kill it. You know what I mean? It's just that. But then you've got the other side of the events, which are all based on favourite game votes, and then you have victory points as a tiebreaker. And that puts you up the ladder, depends what it is. And I've played a guy who absolutely just completely tabled me in the very first Heresy Throne of Skulls.
Yeah.
And he was all excited. He's like, I've got 20 points. And I'm like, yeah, but you're only so many points. I've got like 18 points. Like, you are so many points ahead of me. And he's like, yeah, but a win. Like, but that counts for nothing. All they want is the favourite game votes and then victory points.
Yeah.
And it changes the attitude of what the people are playing. They're more fun games. They're more lenient towards you forgetting things, whereas at a win at all costs, it's like, if I do that turn, tough.
Yeah.
You know, they don't care if you don't like playing them. That's not what they want. They want the win. Whereas these newer style events are more kind of community based, build along, fun.
Yeah.
And you know, I've played 5 games at the Shadow War, and I had 5 great games. You know, I'm really lucky that I managed to add a few of them on Facebook afterwards, so I can keep that conversation going and build along.
And I think that's part of the thing, isn't it? Like I say, building that community with the advances in social media, you can keep in contact with each other. I mean, Shadow War was won by
Penno, yeah, it
by
was
our
by
main man.
Matt, yeah.
And you know, fair play to well done,
Matt. 4 favourite game votes, and he took an Iron Fire list, which so the guys just getting to the Heresy will be like, I don't know what it is. When you find out, you'll understand quite how painful that list can be.
Oh, it's filthy. It's horrible. It's vile.
It tabled my my filthy Mastodon list in like 15 minutes. But he got 4 favourite game votes out of a possible 5. I took a Mastodon list and was expecting to get 0. I actually walked away with 3 favourite game votes, and I was quite impressed by that. Just proves that it's not the army you use. Well, it's not the way you use the army. It is the way you use your army.
I was going to say
the army you use.
Yeah, wrong way.
But it's about building that thing, and I think Games Workshop's advancements has helped. I mean, the other thing you got to remember is you've picked your Legion, you've chosen Heresy, you get in there, you're ready. How do you paint it?
Yeah.
Now the avenues you've got here are brilliant. You've got people like Warhammer TV on YouTube. There are so many videos on YouTube for how to paint Legion armies. A lot of them are airbrush based.
Yeah,
and if you're just starting in Heresy and just starting in the hobby, an airbrush is quite a fearsome thing to look at.
Yes, I haven't got an airbrush yet, Ted. Yes, thank you.
It's a kit. It's not an easy thing to just jump into. You've got a lot of options. A lot of money can be spent on these things. But the tutorials are there, and you can convert it to base paints. But then you've got Warhammer TV, Duncan, the legend. I was lucky to work with Duncan before, and he's a great guy. And when he puts his effort into these things, and he's showing you all these different tricks, and it's there. It's up on YouTube. You can go and reference it. And
it's alright. I just advertise another YouTube channel online. It's fine.
It's Warhammer TV.
Oh, no, it's Warhammer TV.
I'm start speaking all of them. But no, these things are up there. It's another thing that Games Workshop's doing to give you guys that little extra footstep on. If you're not on Facebook, and you really need to check out these things, like Forge World put up how to paint Thousand Suns in that lovely candy red. Although it was technically wrong if they put the wrong paint on.
Did they?
Yeah, they put a base paint rather than a clear.
You spotted that?
No, someone else spotted it.
That's right. I was like, you need to get out more, but fair enough.
No. Someone told me after I shared it.
Up to daisy.
But there's so many things. Like Forge are doing those. You got the 40k page. There's a new, actual new page being launched for
the community page.
There's things like Instagram,
which we're on now, by the way. I'm going to interrupt Ed this, but we're now on Instagram. So if you go on Instagram and do a search for Geeks 40k channel, you'll find us. You'll see photos on there, work in progress, and things that we've got painted up and things like that. So continue.
I do need to get on there. But you've got things like Instagram. You've got to be fair, it was helpful. I was trying to think of other ones. But yeah, there's loads of the ones that people have put their piece of work up, and the community at large is really good. No one keeps anything guarded. You know, how did you build that rhino? I will never. I mean, I'm going to start just copying and pasting it back up. But
I could just get you to make a video of how you made that rhino, but that would mean you'd have to build a third one.
It's true.
You could do that.
I will probably do another one.
There you go.
But yeah, these are the things that Heresy, as with 40k, but I find at the minute Heresy is getting a little bit more love from the community at large because when it started, when it was first from book 1, 40k players actually didn't like it. It wasn't the system that they wanted. It wasn't just something they could adapt, find the dirtiest thing, use the dirtiest thing, and consistently win. The thing with Heresy, because of all the little tweaks with Legion rules, it means that just because your army is an absolute dick kicker, say dick kicker?
Yeah, I will let you say dick kicker.
Because you can, doesn't mean you have to. And with Heresy, you actually found that you could take that filthy, absolutely disgusting list, and it'd be amazing against one army, and be completely useless against another. And I think 40k players didn't like it because it's not the same. You know, 40k, I've built my Eldar Death Star, and I will kill everything.
Yeah.
And
Taldar.
Taldar. It's, I say with Heresy, so when Heresy was launched, it started to get a bit more kind of movement under its feet. It was frowned upon by a lot of people who didn't understand that you can play a game and it didn't have to result in turn 2 death. If you guys have watched all of Geek's 40k videos, you may remember I played Emperor's Children Army against my friend Chris, and that was a very short game. And since then, it was one of those ones that he realised that using that list against somebody else didn't work because it lacked a lot of things that made the game easy for him against me. And I think that's one of the big things, 40k to Heresy, the attitude towards how it's played, and even the guys that are now coming across from 40k to pick it up, they're not getting the same kind of response that they would out of the 40k, and they actually are adapting. They may not know they are, but they're slowly changing how they play because of just the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the biggest thing that 30k has got over 40k at the moment is Primarchs. We have Primarchs. We don't have all of them yet. We're still a few missing at this moment in time.
There'll always be 2 missing.
There will always be 2 missing, yes. But that's a big thing that we've got. So you can have Mortarion versus Guilliman. You can have Fulgrim versus Ferrus Manus. You can do all the classic battles. Like you can do Fulgrim against Guilliman because he murdered Guilliman with a poison blade. You can reenact these and see who would have won. And it's kind of like...
Didn't we mention then, Fulgrim versus Ferrus. I watch that every day.
But if you look at the stats, you go by the Black Library books and we know what happened, head off, gone. If you look at the stat lines, Ferrus Manus should have won that.
Yeah.
Every single day of the week, he should have won that. The biggest difference is that Ferrus Manus didn't have his Thunderhammer with him. He had his wrench spanner toolkit with him, and he didn't have his main weapon. He didn't have Oathbreaker. No, that's Vulcan's Oathbreaker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have his big Thunderhammer with him. So because of that, you can reenact them, and I think that is amazing. Now, obviously, we are starting to get Primarchs in 40k. We've now got Magnus the Red. That's the word I was looking for.
I'm going to interrupt on that one.
Go on.
The grounds that Primarch fights are great.
They're amazing.
They are so in keeping with the Heresy. They're so great in the fluff. In game wise, it either goes one kills the other one really quickly, or they kind of kit and fight.
Yeah, it is a bit. It is a bit of a slobber knocker.
And I get it all the time. I see it on videos all the time. Like, oh, why didn't you put Mortarion into combat with such and such?
Because you're a coward.
But everyone says I'm a coward, and I'll stand there and say no. It makes no tactical sense.
Yeah.
In the latest battle report I've done against Ravengard, one of the questions was actually why didn't Corix use hit and run?
Yeah.
And the reason, and it's not been commented on, but I will. The reason it wasn't done, it was a tactical decision to keep Mortarion locked in.
Yeah.
If Mortarion if Corix had gone, Mortarion would have then moved along, took out the scoring units to his right.
Yeah.
Only facing off against a las cannon, which would have taken 7 turns to kill it.
Yeah.
If I'd failed all my saves and if I'd not regrown any wounds.
It was a tactical decision by Amy to keep your Primarch locked in so that Mortarion couldn't do what he does best, which is go murder people.
Trying to blob things and trying to keep it in moving positions to get those long-term objectives is something that's very... Again, I think that's something against 40k with Maelstrom, because you're so embedded in your mind, get to that objective, take the card, use the card, done, move on to something else.
Yeah.
That when you look at a Heresy mission where you need to be on that objective at the end of the game, you need to be playing that long-term game, that tying up for 4 turns or more means that I'm not going to be able to jump around and kill off those things that are scoring while keeping mine in a pretty comfortable position. Really, I mean, Primarchs are great. They really are. They are amazing in game.
Yeah, they are.
And some are good at killing vehicles. Some are good at absolutely mowing down troops. Mortarion. Some are just good for stat building. And
Guilliman's really good at doing Excel spreadsheets.
He's so good.
He's so good at that. He's amazing. He can write a codex like it's going out of fashion. In battle,
But he's good again. But his fighting
style
is his fighting style is against increasing in challenges and things. So he's really good at taking these things down. The one that I will avoid at all costs, or maybe not, Horus. That guy is the all-rounder. He can kill a vehicle. He can kill Primarchs. He can kill troops.
It's the reason why he was made the War Master.
Yeah. And I think, each of them has their own special role, but just if you get your Primarch and your first instinct is to throw your Primarch at the other Primarch on the board, you may feel a bit disappointed in the game that if you didn't kill him, you may kill him. There are many times, and I've done it before myself, that I've killed off Primarchs, but you do kind of have that bit of, which again makes games like Challenge, which, a Primarch versus a normal Praetor, Mortarian's Blade, instant death on all of his attacks. Praetor, punk, dead, thanks for taking part, game over. Doesn't make a fun game. Rebute can instant jib him, it's got a power fist attack.
Yeah, sword.
But then, if you are Primarch versus Primarch Challenge, you have to throw him in turn 1.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
You've got to try and get that in early, and I think, again, taking bits of your Maelstrom where you need to urgently get that objective, but then flipping it over to, long-term game attrition and other things really changes the way you play the game.
So to summarise up, if you play 40k and are interested in getting into the Horus Heresy, you already know the core rules for 40k because you play it. So you already know the core rules to 30k. They just flip across. Like Ed said, you only need to read a tiny little bit. Whichever legion you pick, don't rush your choice. You might regret it. Yeah. You'll only need to read a couple of pages. So your fluff for your legion in the red books will be about this. This will be your traits. You'll have a couple of individual units, maybe 3 or 4. And that's all you need to learn. Everything else is the same. And the stat lines between 40k and 30k are pretty much the same across all the bulk standard stuff. Rhinos are the same. Your Scorpius Whirlwinds, you've got these little tiny variants that are different.
Chassis and stuff.
Chassis sizes and all that kind of stuff. The core rules are the same. Tactical troops, bolters, they don't change.
Yeah, things like how a vehicle moves is the same.
It's the same. How do you charge into assault?
Yeah,
is the same.
But things like what an armor value on a vehicle is may change depending on what it is.
Scorpius Whirlwind is armor 13 at the front.
Yeah, you've got things like Solar Auxilia, Lame Russes have more hull points.
They have more hull points than in 40k.
And these little things. So one of the flavours and things you have to add on to this is force organisation charts. In 40k you have your standard one.
Yeah.
The standard one for Heresy is the Age of Darkness force organisation chart, which is slightly different than the standard one. It's actually got an extra heavy support or elite. It's got an extra one.
Extra one of elite or heavy support.
But you've also got things like Onslaught, Leviathan. These are different things that change what you can take. Onslaught, you only need to have 1 troop choice. You can take up to 2 Lord of War choices. The drawbacks to things like that is that you can only seize the initiative. You can't ever go first in a game. Leviathan.
You've only got 1 tactical squad as well, so to hold
the
objective,
you lose.
you
lose. Your minimum is 1. You can
you
can have extras, but you can't have more than you would have in the Age of Darkness one. And the Leviathan one is designed for god machines. This is allows you to take basically an army of Lord of Wars. So people that take like Reaver Titans, Warlord Titans, and Warhounds. You actually have a force organisation chart allowing you to do that without having to play Apocalypse, which is kind of cool.
Which is very cool. Run a Primarch into a Reaver Titan or a Warlord every day.
And watch Angron kill it, and or watch me die. But there are distinctive differences between the 2 games. It's Heresy in my mind is more of a different. It's 40k rules plus. It's not like Planet Strike. It's not like an additional codexy kind of add-on. It's its own game using the 40k rules. I think is the way I'd summarise it.
I think you're spot on.
You've got to look at it as that's what it is. I mean, the community is great out there. If you have any questions, ask it. Ask below. Yeah,
use the comment section. If you've got any questions about Horus Heresy and all that 30k shenanigans, use the comment boxes below. Either myself or Ed will try and answer your questions. If there's something we've missed, or you've been painting while listening to this video and
it's not blue, be thankful.
You leave my blue alone. So yes, anyway guys, use the comments box. Please leave us a like, it does help out the channel. You might see us 2 mugs back on a vlog together again at some point.
I'm definitely coming back for more.
Okay, Ed's coming back for more, that's always good.
I always want to talk more.
Yeah, I can't shut you up. And as always guys, we will see you on the next one.